Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. Um, a friend of mine today posted up a comment on Facebook. I guess her son, who's in school right now, and I don't know what the background is. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know what he's doing or whatever that's getting him the negative attention. But, um, so I don't know the whole story. To be fair, I don't. But it seems that he's not fitting in school. And he's getting, she's being called in to talk to the teacher quite a bit about his behavior. Like I say, I don't know what that entails. I don't know what behavior it is. But she's being called in to talk to the teacher about her son's behavior. Her son, well, I don't know, he must be about 8 or 10 years old. I don't know exactly how old he is. I would say he's about 8, maybe, somewhere in there, 9 or 10. But anyway, I made a comment in response to that, and what I said was that oftentimes the ones who don't really do well in school do really well in life, and I've seen that happen. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a story now about a friend of mine, a guy who was a good friend of mine all through high school. And this guy was probably the worst student in the world. I mean, this is a guy that, if you look up the term non-academic in the dictionary, this guy's picture is probably there. I mean, this guy is not an academically minded person at all. He never was. Never fit in school. And of course, the teachers kind of ragged on him for that, And when his mother would go in for the parent-teacher interviews, it was always just a long list of everything that he's doing wrong and everything that he isn't doing right. And he doesn't do this, and he isn't doing that, and he should be doing this, but he doesn't. And then he's doing this other thing that he shouldn't be doing, and on and on and on. Like that. And he's never going to amount to anything. He's going to be a failure, and just, he's going to have a hard time in life because he's so bad at school. That was the bottom line. Anyway, his mother, Joyce, her name is Joyce. I know the family quite well. In fact, I boarded at their house. That was one of the places I stayed after I left home. And this fella and his brother were really good friends of mine. Anyway, here's the thing. Joyce, she's again at the parent-teacher interview. She's going from one teacher to the next. And she's getting all this bad news, basically being told your son is a loser and an asshole and he's never going to amount to anything because he's bad at school. Then there was one teacher, and this teacher was a really good teacher. He's probably the best teacher we had in the school. A fellow by the name of Bill Doyle. And Bill Doyle, he really cared about the kids, and he was a good teacher too. Anyway, Bill Doyle, when Joyce sat down with Bill Doyle, she was pretty downtrodden and pretty discouraged because she had just been told over and over again that her son is a useless tool who will never amount to anything because he isn't academic. And this is what Bill Doyle said to her. What Bill Doyle said was, no, he said, he's not academic. Like, that's for sure. He definitely isn't an academic. But don't you worry about him. He's going to do fine. And he said he's going to do fine because he's got street smarts. He's got common sense and he's got street smarts, and he's going to do just fine. Don't worry about your son, Joyce. He's going to be okay. He'll do just fine in the world. He said in school, no, he's not an academic. That just isn't who he is, and he's never going to be an academic. And it would be folly to think that he's going to be an academic. That's just not who he is. But the fact that he's not an academic does not mean that he can't succeed. Because he said in the world, in the world out there beyond these walls, being an academic only gets you so far. But he said what he has is he's got street smarts and he's got common sense. And he said, I can tell you that means an awful lot more out in the world than academic ability. So he said, no, he's not an academic. He's never going to be a great student, but he'll be just fine. And in fact, he'll probably do really well. There's no reason to think he won't. He'll be just fine. Don't worry about him. And that really reassured her in a big way. She got a lot of comfort from that. Especially after all the other teachers telling her that her son was just a useless thing that would never amount to anything because he wasn't an academic. Anyway, flash forward 40 years, and Mr. Bill Doyle was absolutely right. Obviously he's a grown man now, like I am, and he's done really well. He's done better than a lot of us have. And so good on him for that, And Bill Doyle was absolutely right. He did have common sense and street smarts, and he had them in a big way. And he had an ability. He had a way with people, and he had an ability just to see situations as they are, and to he just had a lot of ability that way. I don't know. There was something about him that unless you are blinded by a prejudice, like if you have a prejudice against people who aren't academic, then you would never see it. And I think that was the case with a lot of these teachers. They were kind of prejudiced against anybody who wasn't an academic. But if you didn't have that going on, you just watch this guy in action and you'd know he was going to do okay. At the very least, he was going to be okay, and he was probably going to be better than okay. And he has done really well. Anyway, and good on him for that. I'm happy for him that he did do well. And I kind of always knew he would. And I'm glad that Mr. Doyle gave his mother Joyce that reassurance, to say that, don't worry, he'll be fine. Because by the time she got to his desk, she was pretty downtrodden because she'd just been told over and over again, yeah, he's not gonna make it. He's no good. He's not gonna make it, basically. Anyway, Bill Doyle put it into perspective, and good on him for it. And I'm really glad anyway that he did that, and and it did work out the way he said it would too. So. And he was absolutely right. Once you leave school, academic ability really will only get you so far. I've known a lot of people. Okay, I got to get him off me. Okay, Rocky, you got to get off me. I've known a lot of people. Who had a lot of academic ability and had no common sense. Absolutely no common sense. And so, yeah, and no street smarts. There are people who have a lot of academic ability, but they can't read the room. They walk into a place and they have no idea what's going on there. And they'll find themselves in the middle of a friggin' knife fight or something because they're just that clueless, I can tell you, because I'm one of those that has some street smarts because I've led a pretty rough life. I've been around and I've seen some things, and I can actually feel that there's an issue when I walk into a room before I even see anything, I just feel it. I just know something's going on here. And then it don't take me long to figure it out. And the same thing on the street. My head is always on a swivel. I'm always watching. And, and I'll see things, I'll see situations developing before they occur, and I'll avoid them. And again, that's just common sense and street smarts. But you can be an academic, and you can know things that I can't even dream of knowing, and walk right into the middle of a situation you have no business being in the middle of. Walk yourself right into a friggin' knife fight or something. A couple of guys, on the street or whatever, and you walk right in between them. And they're trying to kill each other. You don't want to do that, because they're just oblivious to their surroundings, and they don't understand, oh, well, that would never happen. People don't do that. Well, yes, they do. Yes, they do. People are crazy. There are people in this world that will beat you to death just because you glanced at them as you walked past them on the sidewalk. Thank goodness not everybody's that way. Those people are few and far between, but they are out there. And unless you can see that guy coming and recognize him before you get yourself into a situation, you're going to have issues. And it requires street smarts and common sense to do that. But like I say, there's a lot of academics who don't have that. And they get themselves into some pretty hinky situations because they don't have that. They don't see it coming. And then when it comes, they're surprised. Oh, I never thought that would happen. In the meantime, I was walking a half a block behind the guy, and I crossed the street. Because I'm looking at this thing going on up ahead, and I'm saying, oh, shit. Yeah, I don't want to be in the middle of that. So I'm across the street, So, yeah, and I mean, that's the whole thing. Street smarts and common sense will serve you far better than academic ability will. Not that academic ability doesn't have its place, and not that there isn't value in it, because there is. But it ain't everything. That's all, And if these teachers that were running my friend into the ground, to them, academic ability was everything. And they were smart people. There's no doubt about that. These teachers, we had smart teachers. These people weren't stupid. But they were blinded by a prejudice. They were blinded by the notion that only academic ability matters. And that's why they were unable to see the value in my friend, and that he was going to be okay. There was only one teacher there, Mr. Doyle, that saw it. And like I say, I'm really glad that he told Joyce, don't worry, he's going to be fine, because she did take a lot of comfort from that. And he was right. Anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you later.